FLM, wide open thinking, world-class work, and far-reaching results. Now with locations in Minneapolis, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Washington, D.C. A strategic marketing and communications company dedicated to serving clients who specialize in the business of agriculture and the life of rural communities.
Congressman Mike Pompeo from Kansas' 4th District, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you.
First off, can you tell us a little bit about your district and why agriculture is important to it?
You can. I represent the bulk of south central Kansas. It's centered on the city of Wichita, but it extends as far west as Pawnee County and as far east as Greenwood, Elk, and Chautauqua County. And it's a very rural space. Wonderful people, folks who produce corn and wheat and beans and all the things. There's livestock. It's a agricultural community that is producing food for Kansas and America and the world.
Now, Congressman, aside from the demographics of your district, and with all due respect, just looking at your background, West Point educated, you went to Harvard Law, there's not a lot there that screams agricultural policy. And yet you are the author of a bill that has been the subject of quite a bit of conversation in the House of Representatives, potentially the Senate moving forward, the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act. Can you just tell us a little bit about what it was that motivated you to author that piece of legislation?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, the district I represent has important agricultural interests, and so I, from the beginning, have done my best to learn all about that. I didn't come with a deep knowledge or background. That's absolutely true. So I've spent a lot of time out talking to the folks who do this for a living and who do, in fact, feed the world. This bill came at me from Kansas agriculture folks who were increasingly concerned about the risk that the technology that they needed to continue to improve yields and reduce the amount of water they used and reduce the amount of pesticides they used, that technology was going to be taken away from them if we had this patchwork of laws all across the country. And so I came to learn about the issue with respect to genetically engineered foods. I learned very quickly they were safe. And once we crossed that threshold, I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that Kansas farmers could continue to feed the next billion people.
Now, this bill, both the Energy and Commerce Committee, which you serve on, and the House Agriculture Committee had jurisdiction over it. But you're looking at GMO labeling as a broader subject. Do you see this as a commerce issue or an agricultural issue?
Oh, it's both. It's important for commerce, it's important for trade, and it's incredibly important for the agricultural community as well. They're deeply connected. I think that's why you saw a bill that ended up with a jurisdiction as between the two of us. The legislation itself has important things that USDA, the Department of Agriculture, will need to do, and important things that the FDA will need to do. We want to make sure that this food is safe, the way it's grown is safe, and that we get a regulatory structure that allows consumers to know what's in their food and allows our farmers to continue to have the newest technology so that we can continue to be competitive in feeding the entire world.
Now, looking at the work that you do within the Energy and Commerce Committee, and you also serve on the Intelligence and Select Benghazi Committee, how does that committee work relates to your agricultural focused constituents?
So, the intelligence work relates only that national security matters to everything. Our capacity to continue to lead in the world and have a dollar-denominated world depends on us having a safe environment from which to operate. More directly, the energy and commerce work often touches on issues that are important to agriculture. Certainly these FDA issues that the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act impacts, but probably spent more time working to try and push back on the EPA. The Energy and Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over the Environmental Protection Agency, and not a farmer I know thinks EPA isn't a curse word. They have, since my time in Congress, been incredibly devastating to the ability of our folks to feed the world. And I know these folks. They want safe drinking water. They want clean air. They are incredibly good stewards of the land, and yet our EPA treats them as criminals. We've got to push back on that. This Waters of the U.S. rule that is being proposed will be devastatingly bad. And so my work on the Energy and Commerce Committee related to EPA directly impacts every one of my constituents who's involved in the food supply chain.
And typically when we're interviewing someone for Meet the Lawmaker, they have ties to either the House or Senate Agriculture Committees, so it's not too often that we come across someone who's on the Intelligence Committee. So can you just tell us a little bit about the differences between that committee and maybe some of the other committees within the House, and maybe what you do specifically on a day-to-day basis in that committee?
So my work on the Intelligence Committee I love because I get a chance to spend time with our warriors, our Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard's folks. These are warriors who are performing intelligence tasks all around the world. My work often is done in a classified setting, so our hearings aren't open as the Energy and Commerce Committee hearings are or the Ag Committee hearings are, but we spend time trying to make sure that we have the resources from an intelligence perspective to know what the people who are trying to kill us all around the world are up to. And our intelligence warriors do great work. They do great work also working to protect the intellectual property that belongs to many of the folks involved in the agriculture industry as well. Prevent cyber attacks, all of those things that we hear in the news that don't directly relate to everyday life on the farm, but certainly impact Kansans and Kansas farmers' ability to do what it is they do.
Earlier I mentioned your educational experiences, being educated at the military academy at West Point as well as Harvard Law, and then serving some time in the military and rising to the rank of captain. How did those experiences prepare you for membership in Congress?
My time in the military provided a great background in many respects. First, I think anyone who served in the military understands this deep commitment to country and to things greater than oneself. I think it also provided me discipline, self-discipline in many respects, the ability to focus on a mission and to be relentless until that mission is accomplished. So if you ask the things that I carry forward with me from my time in the Army, it was certainly a love of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, but also my ability to understand that you have to focus and that when there's a mission to do, it doesn't matter what gets between you and victory. You climb the mountain, you take the hill, you finish the task. And this week we're going to get the Safe and Accurate Food Labeling Act. It's taken a year and a half. There were many, many obstacles between us and victory, and we just worked as a team to get this done. And I'm very proud of this accomplishment. I know it'll be really important to Kansas farmers.
So once you got done with the military, spent a few years, some time in the private sector, what was it that motivated you to run for Congress?
Back in 2009, I watched this president taking our country to places I never thought it would be. And while I'm a bit of an old man, my son, I feared, would live in a country that was very, very different than the one that I grew up in, and gave me all these blessings. I had a chance to run a couple of businesses in Kansas. I had a chance to serve in the military. I've been incredibly blessed to be an American, and I want to make sure that this country doesn't leave that, and I saw it headed the wrong way. We were spending $1 trillion a year more than we were taking in, and I knew that that would not work. And so I've been here 4.5 years now, and we have begun, I think, to convince the American people that we have it right. I think it's why we have more Republicans in the House than we've ever had in my lifetime or the lifetime of my father. They understand that this country was headed the wrong direction. I'm hopeful we can continue to deregulate for the ag community. We can stop spending the money of our farmers in ways that don't make sense and bring our country back to the things that every common sense Kansan knows make a difference.
So now that you've been up here for a few terms, if you could change one thing about Congress just as a whole, what would that be?
Oh goodness, the list is long, I suppose. I always think the processes work best when elected officials are straightforward and honest. And I don't mean people are lying, but there's this idea that you can't talk straight to your constituents, and I wish more members would do that. I try every day to tell folks what I'm really thinking and why I think that. Sometimes it means I disagree with them. Sometimes even friends, we have disagreements on particular bills or particular issues. The most important thing I think members of Congress can do is just be honest and straightforward, articulate the reasons you think that, listen and learn. I've learned a lot while I've been here. If we could get every member to behave that way, we would have a lot more trust in Congress and we'd have a lot better outcomes in Congress than we're getting today.
Congressman Mike Pompeo from Kansas's 4th District, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was great to be with you.